We'll get started this evening. We have a nice agenda. We'll start with the approval of the minutes from December 7th. If you don't have a copy, there are some over here on stage if you need to grab one. So we'll give you guys a couple seconds to look through minutes. Any editorial suggestions, omissions, additions? All of our conjunctions are in order.
Just a small thing. I think on the page 3 under dispatching, it says Chief Cobb noted that they went to Hanover. I think Chief Cobb noted when they went to Hanover, she was assured that it was not because of quality of service. And then there should be a new sentence that says it was because their fire department got dispatching from Hanover. That's a small item, but it just...
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll take note of that. Thank you.
That's true.
Any other thoughts? Do you want to make your motion again? I have a motion to approve the minutes with the editorial.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, that passes. Let's move on to Bill, Selectmen's report.
Thank you. Very brief report again. Had an excellent employee lunch on Friday. It's great to see the turnout of all of our employees. And second of all, with regard to the proposed land purchase, the Selectmen are now focusing on only on the lot west of Hilltop Road.
Go ahead.
Which way is, west is, as we're facing it, closer on the way towards the interstate?
West is the farther part with access only from Newport Road, opposite Fenwood. Be on the agenda with the Selectmen tomorrow night also.
This is the 7-acre?
Yes.
So I guess we'll get into it tomorrow night, but are you suggesting they're not selling the whole thing any longer? Just the one?
No, we actually were going to buy it, not sell it.
No, but we're still buying both parcels or not?
No, we're focused at this point on potentially only buying the one parcel,
Okay, so it's negotiations.
but more tomorrow night.
All right. Let's move on to budget reviews. There was an agenda that was sent out revised, so we'll start with fire departments and Firewards. We'll move to emergency management, and then I'd like to, because we have rec and library here, I'd like to move those up in front of health and welfare if there are no objections to that. I feel like those will have the more questions from the committee than the others, and then we'll go through the rest of the agenda. So Jay, why don't you kick us off?
Good evening. In review of the budget that was submitted, I just wanted to sort of look historically at what we've asked for and received. And there's a little bit of anomaly over the last couple of years. For one, just looking back in 2015, when I present the budget to the Board of Firewards, who ultimately submits that to the Select Board and then the Budget Committee, it goes through a couple of vetting process, and certainly having a zero-based budget is beneficial, so we sort of know exactly what we're going to spend on what items. 2015, we only had a surplus of $1,400. 2016, 19.5. We were under, or we overexpended in 2017 of $407, and then 36 and change in 2018. 2019 was 6,400. 2020 was 1,700, and then with the delay of hiring a fire prevention officer, some of the surplus was certainly because of wage and then also COVID. So there were some things that we didn't spend because of the supply chain. In 2021, it was just over $97,000, and then 2002 was 65,000. So looking at this year, fortunately, the Select Board allowed the police department and the fire department to apply for some reimbursement grants. And in reviewing what our current budget is, I'd make a recommendation, because there are several line items that were increased: vehicle repair and maintenance, which we overexpended last year. So that increased slightly, just over 4,000. And then obviously with the increase of petroleum products, fuel and gas was increased. But for uniforms and safety equipment, we had increased that because our gear, our personal protective gear, our fire gear had gone up and continues to go up year after year, Gesundheit. And, but with the monies that we had received through the Gopher grant from the state, or probably the feds getting funneled through the state, my recommendation would be to cut that back. Each set of gear is $3,200. So I would propose to cut that back $6,400 for that line item, which is $681. So that would be 2 sets, so we still have 2 sets in the budget. If we had a new hire for one of the personnel, or sometimes gear just that we have in the closet, in the quartermaster's room, just doesn't fit a firefighter, then we could use the funds that we have to outfit. So having some money in there would be beneficial, but I think that it would be, especially with the recommendation of, John, you've got a puzzled look.
So let me just clarify. So, sorry, so line item 681
Yes,
would go from 20,500 to 14,100.
yes, that is correct.
Okay. That was John's question, I knew. And has that been presented to the selectmen yet?
It hasn't.
It hasn't, okay.
Nope,
All right,
nope.
so Lynn, just more of when we get budgets back after everybody presents to have a more accurate, okay. Okay. Any additional?
Not unless there's
Comment?
questions.
There's always questions. So why don't we start? John?
Jay, on the sheets that we had here that we're talking about, you were talking about a capital reserve, taking $64,000 for
For radios?
radio replacement,
Yes, that's correct.
and I can't see in here where,
So this would be the operating budget, so from the reserve account, that would be a separate line item or
I was looking
request.
under the reserve accounts and I don't see it in there, but that's
Okay.
good. Is it? And then the other thing was the building maintenance. You want to put in a split unit or something like that?
That is correct.
Is that in here?
That would probably be in the DPW budget, since they oversee buildings and facilities.
Okay, I think I looked there and didn't see it, but
Okay.
if someone could straighten me out on it, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
So with regards to withdrawal from the reserve account with respect to radios,
I'm not seeing it in here. Was it in your
Okay.
original budget?
yeah, it was in
Us?
the request as far as the justification sheets, yeah.
Okay. And then what was the second question?
Maintenance and repair, putting in,
$10,000 in maintenance and repair for a new split unit.
coming out of DPW, not,
Gotcha. I'll
not the
check
fire.
that before next week.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jay on fire?
Well, it sort of tied in. Lynn, did you hand out a handout this evening that I might not have gotten? Did that have the balance of the reserve funds?
No, it just shows what's the agents to expend.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
that's different.
Yeah.
So we don't know that 34, we don't know what reserve fund that's in and whether there's a balance in there that we can check?
There's a sheet.
Yeah, there's got to be a reserve fund.
So I didn't find it in the updated reserve funds, as John was indicating, so it might just be a missed item. I had a similar question.
Okay.
We'll let Lynn look and then come back to that.
And what was that, Jay?
That's next year.
For radio replacement.
Radio replacement.
Yeah, I don't see a balance, I just see where,
The ending balance is 64,000. I show 15,000 coming
Right.
out of capital reserve in this sheet that you all have.
So does that sound accurate, Jay, or does that need to be?
If we're only going to get 3 radios, then yes, that would be accurate. And I don't actually have that updated sheet, so I can certainly meet up with Lynn and
Let's see.
go from there.
Okay.
Tanker.
I'm just trying to find a balance.
Yeah, right here. It's that. So it's the first sheet in your. It's with the highlights.
So these 2 items then are to be addressed later? Is that it?
So I guess my question would be, the money going into the reserve account
Right.
is going in on an annual basis. What the proposal would be to remove
$64,000.
$64,000 from the reserve
Right,
account.
right.
Yes,
And
that
that
is
isn't on
correct.
these sheets yet, but that will.
But there's no effect as far as the operating budget goes, so from the reserve
No,
account.
no.
Is there any concern or question?
In the
with-
capital reserves, it does not show that that's happening, I don't buy.
Okay,
So I think that needs to be straightened out.
okay.
And then the $10,000 in the building maintenance thing,
Just need to check if it's coming out of DPW or if it's out of fire.
we got to see if it's.
Right.
I couldn't find it. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jay on fire?
I have a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief, thanks for everything you do, by the way. Could you just give us a sense of, when you think about vehicle repair and maintenance, there is a capital reserve fund for that. What triggers, I know last week we talked about this in the context of the police department, and there was a comment made that, the large repairs go to the capital reserves. What, in your mind, if any, do you have a trigger as to when you put in an operating fund versus capital reserve?
Sure. For the capital expenditures, those would be something like a pump. Unfortunately, when something goes down on a piece of fire apparatus, one of our larger pieces, whether it be the 2 engines, the ladder, or the tanker, they tend to be $9,000. For whatever reason, it's $9,000, which is never a good thing, which is something that we don't put in our operating budget. So just from a preparing standpoint, there are annual services that we do to those 4 main pieces of apparatus as well as our support vehicles. Usually I budget about $15,000 a piece. So for engine 1, we've got $15,000. Engine 2, we have 15, but we also have had some issues with engine 2. For instance, our transfer switch going from our PTO-driven generator to power the extrication equipment failed. So we had to use an old gas power supply to power our extrication tools. So that took a couple of months to fix because they don't have that part in stock. So now they have to rebuild it just because of the age of the apparatus. Currently, there's a power steering leak. Reeds has ordered the part. That should be in, that's, hopefully this week. So there's some increased maintenance on that piece just because it's just over 20 years old. Ladder 3, there's annual servicing that needs to take place, pump tests, aerial certifications. So we have $3,500 for that. Just the ladder testing alone is $1,200. The tanker, we've got $1,200, spring and fall. It does need some new tires, so that was put in. And then on an annual basis, we're looking at right around $600 a piece for our support vehicles, whether it be the 2 Tahoes or the utility truck. So in total, it was $26,150 was what I came up with for a total there.
Thank you. And the second item I had was your small tools and equipment,
Yes.
line item 612.
Yep.
Can you, what is that?
So we annually go through 10 pails of foam. It's $155 a piece. It comes out to $1,550. And also dry hydrant supplies. So that's what we use when we convert from a 4.5-inch or 5-inch pipe. We're in the process of switching over everything to a 6-inch fitting. There's also replacements for older strainers. So we're going through replacing stuff on dry hydrants and cisterns. We have just over 20 of those in town. So that total is $1,050 for the $2,600. With that being said, there are years, especially the last two, that we've had some supply chain issues, either getting, and also it's been sort of funky. I do, certainly although we're halfway now through our budget, I also wait until the last quarter of the budget to expend anything in case we have some sort of catastrophic failure or whatever the case is, things pop up. So it tends to be in the spring, typically when we do things, whether it be servicing the apparatus or whatever the case may be. So no different than equipment repair and maintenance. That's a fairly decent chunk of just over 10,000. Those are small engines, our chainsaws, our air compressors, vent saws, extrication equipment, just to service those alone is $2,800. Flow testing of packs. We have our packs hydro tested on an annual basis. And when we flow test the packs, it's about $50 a piece, 50 packs, $1,250. So those things add up. Fit testing, service of the light pack is $1,600 on an annual basis. The light pack 15, that's our AED. Any medical call we go on, we hook up our light pack to check someone's heart, to get a blood pressure, pulse ox, and heaven forbid they're in cardiac arrest, or I guess not heaven forbid because we actually have it, we're able to shock the person. Ironically, that piece was a $26,000 donation made from the New London Firefighters Association. And that was, I don't know, we probably raised those funds 7 years ago or so.
And some of the costs you're identifying, the category 614 has got equipment replacement?
Yep.
Is that some of the categories you're referring to just a moment ago, or is that all?
So
Trying to get some delineation.
yep. So equipment replacement, on an annual basis, we tend to purchase hose. Mm-hmm. The hose that we purchase is $220 a length. Mm-hmm. That's $880. Typically, we get two different colors. When firefighters go into a building, it's kind of nice to say, hey, just shut down the red line or the yellow line or blue line, whatever the case is. So those two line items alone are just over $1,900. And then the 2.5 inch for 6 lengths is $844 for the, it's actually 2604, but we round to the nearest 50. Counts for some shipping that may be incurred.
The last question I have with you is, I noticed that, and maybe this is really a question for Lynn, you don't have computers? There's no computer support or maintenance allocation of the fire department? You don't have any computers?
We do have computers.
They do, but they fall under our telephone stuff because you have laptops, you have that stuff, but you're not supported. Are you supported by VC3?
We are.
You get a percentage of that.
Yep.
So
you're adding VC3 to us now?
thank Colin for that one. No,
Thanks, Colin.
no, and then it's if it's not specifically on here, then it's covered under.
I'm sure it's allocated somewhere.
My bucket, my finance
Okay.
bucket. It's covered under.
So with that being said, the fire department does have 5 computers. One's in the communications room, one's used by the fire prevention officer. I have a computer in my office. One's designated for NFIRS, that's the National Incident Reporting System that we submit to the state on an annual basis. And then the other full-time fire lieutenant now that does all our preparedness. So all those records, training, all that stuff is on those particular items.
So obviously, the cost allocation of VCS across the departments would be modified as a function of assigning some of those costs to the FD.
Yeah, I can find out why it wasn't done that way. It was
Yeah.
done prior to me being in this position, but I can find out why it was done that way, and we don't have a line item for that for fire.
I mean, at the end of the day, Chief, you represent 7% of the budget,
Yes.
and 83% of that is wage and wage-related. So there's not a lot to do here other than focusing on how we go about buying equipment and doing maintenance, right? So,
Yeah, and we did, and certainly from a wage perspective, breaking out, obviously, there was a jump in part-time wages. As you know, not all firefighters go to every single, although there's a response to every call that gets called into the station, we don't respond with a full complement of firefighters. So out of our 800 to 50 to 1,000 calls a year, about 125 to 175 of those are general alarms, meaning everyone gets called for that. The reason why we do that is certainly it assists the budget, but it also assists with burnout of our firefighters. So the problem is the more calls that people go on, I mean, most people can't respond to over 200 calls a year on an annual basis. It's just not financially feasible, never mind employers and how they would work that through the system. So certainly having the on-call officer system or the duty crew during the daytime hours from Monday to Friday, 7 to 7, has worked out to be very beneficial. The part-time wages, that does cover, currently Jenna Edmonds is a regular part-time employee there. You'd almost consider her per diem. And she works 1,248 hours on an annual basis. And then we also made a suggestion for on-call wages to go up this year, just to cover those individuals that are covering. For instance, we have a firefighter or a lieutenant that's on call right now. He'll cover until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then our weekends, the station isn't staffed. So that's a large majority of the compensation for part-time wages.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions from members? Okay. Jay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to emergency management.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lou Bode, I'm the Emergency Management Director, volunteer. This year, we're lowering our requested budget by 43%. Reason why is that over the last 2 years, the state has been overtly generous because of the pandemic. A lot of the stuff that we wanted to get we got it through state grants, and just recently, as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, I picked up a 200 COVID tests that will be available. I dropped some in the library, dropped some in the COA. The state has an excess of several 100,000, so they're there for our community. In addition to that, which you will find generators, the equipment repair and maintenance, it is primarily comprised of generators. The Code Red is a particularly vital part of the emergency management effort. It is the reverse 911 that many of you have signed up for and get in case of dire emergency. We lowered our travels and meals primarily because we're doing everything via Zoom. Conferences and training, we just have a modicum just in case. The travel that I'm doing to the state, I'm funding it myself. I'm not bundling it down. Emergency supplies, it is primarily, we've established a stock of meals ready to eat in case of an emergency, and that is because of the fact that we are so isolated that in the case of a severe catastrophe like the ice storms of 98 and 2008. We were basically left alone. The Salvation Army and the Red Cross told us that they would not be supporting us. So when I became the EMD, I decided that we needed to supply our own just in case. Those meals are also available for first responders and, if necessary, members of the community should there be a state of emergency declared in town by the Board of Selectmen. The CERT team is ongoing. We've lost our head, so we are going to be looking for another one. But as you notice, the fact that we've got so many supplies from the state, that means that we don't need much in the way of equipment. The only thing that I would ask to consider in the future, this town is going to be having a problem with generators. Most of the town buildings have emergency generator backup. Those are getting old, and I am trying to work with the state to get what's called EMPGs, Emergency Management Performance Grants. We got one for this past year. We got one for the Highway Department, 75 kVA. We'd like to, in the future, get one in, obviously you get Whipple, the fire department, town hall, and the ones for the sewer system are also, some of them are also getting old. So we will be doing our utmost trying to get grants for those. Questions?
Any questions for Lou?
I do, thank you. Lou, the Code Red, what percent of the town, if you're aware of it, is actually in the system? And what are the costs that we incur?
The approximately, and this came out of a study from a resiliency study from Colby Sawyer. Approximately 60% of the town is subscribed to Code Red.
60%?
Yeah. And if the other figure that I'll throw out that really completely surprised me was that over 50% of the town residences have backup generation. We are one lucky town. Yes, we do have a lot more resources than the neighboring communities, but I think we're fairly well prepared compared to the other communities.
So what are the costs in the budget represent for Code Red?
For Code Red is a fee that you pay for the company. It is a set fee, and it's the same thing as hazmat. Hazmat is a $2,000 fee that doesn't change. Well, eventually it's going to go up.
So irrespective of how many citizens are on it, we pay the same fee?
Yes.
Okay. Because in 2022, it looks like our fees were double than what we forecasted.
And I think that's because we end up paying.
But that's because
2 years in a row?
2021, we didn't have any, because it hit
Okay.
the wrong bucket.
Gotcha, okay, so we just doubled it up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for Lou?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lou. And I apologize, I don't think, does Budget Committee have any questions for Firewards? I forgot I covered that. I just wanted to make sure. No changes. All right. With that, why don't we, Crystal, if you don't mind, would you mind coming up for library? And I think, happy to cover any changes from the last time, Crystal, if you just wanted to highlight anything since you presented to the selectmen, or any additional things that you want to highlight in the budget. We don't have to do everything that you did for the selectmen, but...
Sure. Crystal Schimpf, Library Director, Tracy Memorial Library. We do not have any changes from what was presented to the selectmen. I do just want to acknowledge that our budget is approved by the Library Board of Trustees in advance of coming to the selectmen and then to the Budget Committee, and I have 3 of the library trustees present here tonight in support of our budget request.
Great. So we'll take questions from Crystal.
Chris, I don't know if you're prepared. When we sat, I was one of, 4 of us that went to the subcommittee back in the summer. And I was pretty intrigued by the statistics that you had shared with us. I thought maybe the group would benefit from it if you have them available about the amount of participation in the library from the town. Is that something you have at the top of your head? If it's not, that's fine.
I think you're referring to the fact sheet that I provided, and I actually have it with me.
Good.
Was there any particular area of it that
Just
you were?
the amount of folks who are members of the library and what you're trying to do to increase that membership and what percent of that membership represents the town citizens?
Yeah, thank you. And we certainly, since I joined the library in June of 2021, we've been working very hard not only to return services from during the pandemic, but also to increase and meet the needs of new residents and people who maybe haven't used the library in some time. And we are seeing that increase. I don't have the numbers to date, but in 2021, we had 1,521 patrons, meaning people who had active library cards. Let's see, Colin, what month was it that we met? It was a couple of months ago, August. So in August, we had 1,650 patrons, so seeing some increases there. We track both our physical circulation of books, DVDs, physical materials we have in the collection, and also our digital circulation of online items where you actually check out an ebook or an audiobook. And so in 2021, we had over 55,000, just over 55,000 checkouts of physical items and 13,220 checkouts of digital items. Again, I'm sorry, I should have thought to update these numbers to where we're at today, but just in August of 2022, we had 24,135 physical checkouts. So we're on track to meet, if not exceed, those numbers. And I think actually the numbers I pulled was still from midway through the summer, and our summer months are our busiest, so we were still seeing some of that traffic come through. This year, we observed greater foot traffic, greater use of the library this summer. We had some very well-attended outdoor summer library programs for our families in the community, and we now have a new assistant director who's beginning to work on adult programs to bring in our various ages of adults that are readers and also of cultural interest to the community. So those are some of the things I would highlight.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Crystal? All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll cover rec next, so Putnam, why don't you come up? Our new full-time rec director, congratulations.
Thank you. My name is Putnam Kidder. I'm the recreation director. And do we want to go over just the new thing or what we?
I would say let's go over anything new since the last time you presented.
Okay.
Highlight any new. I know there's a new addition.
Yes.
There is a new request from the rec department. There's a sheet, if you don't have it, that outlines what that is. It should be on your desk, but Putnam will go over it and explain the rationale for it.
Yep, so there should be 2 parts to it. One is an explanation of the memo, and then the second one is all the details, which is at this point a proposal. So after Halloween occurred this year, I met with the Chief Lyon and Chief Cobb, and we did a review of the event and reflected on what it, how it went, and we were excited that it happened and excited that the fire department and the police department were able to really step up and meet the desire for the community to have the event, have the closed section of Main Street. So we wanted to reflect on what went well, what we can improve on from this year if it goes forward. And from that meeting became a proposal to look at what it would be to doing it as how the safety professionals of our town feel like it should be done to manage it, and the numbers are bigger. I think last year was as big as it's ever been. They estimated about 2,500 people, probably plus. So we decided to come up with a proposal, collaborating between the 3 of us, and show what it would need to be to do this safely, with safety being the number one priority. So it is a sum of, the proposal is $9,960. And if you look at it, that doesn't include if we wanted to have an ambulance for EMS support. Like I said, there's very, very strong community support to have this event, to continue it as it is with the Main Street closure. That we would really like to try to get a group of volunteers to help support the event, to help organize the event, to help possibly fundraise for the event, kind of like the hospital days events. They have a kind of a immediate group that meets throughout the year of community volunteers and people who put that on an event. So we would like to try to do that, but we would like to try to have it move forward in a safe way, and this is the proposal that has been put together in collaboration with the fire department, the police department, to look at what we would need to do this. The combination of safety personnel, also looking at chemical toilets if we needed to get traffic vests, and also looking at expanding the number of community volunteers as well. So that would be the biggest change, to add the approximate cost of, I put it at $10,000 to support the Halloween event moving forward.
So for budget committee members, that would be, and Lynn, tell me if I'm wrong, we would put that under special events line item?
We can put it there, or we can put a separate line item for Halloween, whatever works best.
So that would, let's just say if we put it under special events, that would move that line item to 12,000 versus 2,000, and up the total budget from 211,147 to 221,147.
Yes, correct.
Right. And everything else was the same since the last presentation?
To the selectmen, yep.
Okay. Any questions for Putnam? Go ahead, Lindsay.
Putnam, thanks for tackling that. I know it's a, very popular agenda item with a lot of people in town. And in putting this into your budget, then you would officially be taking ownership of the so-called event, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
In collaboration with the fire department and the police department. It would be the recreations thing, but we would be working with those personnel to put it on safely.
Awesome. And then my other question is, when the police and the fire collaborate with, say, hospital days, or I can't think of another event that goes on, but are those expenses for those events noted somewhere, or is it just kind of dissolved by the police and by the fire?
It's absorbed into their budget.
Okay. That's kind of my point, being they're holding, a different standard here to the recreation department, and however we're going to do it is fine by me. However the event goes on so that people are safe and the community's happy is fine. I just would like to see the same standard applied to all events and departments.
I think the difference for this one, Lindsay, may be that rec puts on Halloween. The other events, the hospital puts on hospital days. I think the other items, and Chief Cobb, tell me if I'm wrong, but the triathlon is another event that you have folks out there to help with traffic. With rec sponsoring Halloween, I see where you're going with this, but I also think the dollars, where they come out of police or come out of rec, is kind of a wash, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying that historically, the town has been somewhat, and I say the town, they have wanted to claim ownership of a holiday that wasn't an official event. And however it gets paid for is fine, but I just want to make sure that it's clear that the recreation department is going to take ownership of this event and oversee it then.
So I'll put my rec commission hat on, and Putnam, feel free to talk over me. So I'll say that, yes, there are many events that we'd like to begin to put together. Not all, and probably not most, would require police or fire, but I think you'll see we have a mission to present to the selectmen a plan for 2023 of an event calendar, and have that published to the town. So I think you'll see many, many events that are quote-unquote owned by the rec department versus what we've had in the past couple of years.
No, it's collaborative. I just want to make that distinction, that's all.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And I think the other thing to add that is not necessarily in the details, and again, Putnam or Chief Cobb can talk to it, being at Halloween and helping as a volunteer, we had only closed the road from Pleasant Street down to Spring Ledge, but because of the amount of people and the foot traffic, Chief Cobb made the decision to go all the way back down to Seamans Road where we've done it in the past, so more people had to be used. And I think to Putnam's point around safety, I don't know how many instances there were down there of potential safety concerns with cars coming in fast and people in the street, but wanting to expand it back to where it originally was with Seamans Road means more roads have to be blocked off and more folks have to attend to those streets.
Can I follow up on Lizzie's? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
But, this being my first year, I may not be clear. How does the rec department liaise with the outing club to prevent, because I see, a line of $40,000?
That's last year's, Lou. That was a one-time gift to the outing club to help them.
Okay.
They
so
were,
that's-
as you recall, the rec department had a part-time, Putnam was the part-time director. So we were relying on the outing club to do a lot, to help us with activities. We gave them $40,000 to help them hire a full-time director.
So that's no longer...
That is a one-time line item and that's zeroed out for this coming year.
Okay, so we do not provide funds for the outing club?
We do not.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Yeah, John, go ahead. Sorry.
With the conversation we had before, I just wanted to make sure that the Budget Committee understands how we're funding the full-time position here, and you had a good explanation.
Sure.
It'd be good to be
Yeah,
clear for the rest of the committee.
I'd be happy to explain. So for folks on the Budget Committee, if you look at the Recreation section on 14 and it goes on to page 15, so when we had a part-time director, which was what Putnam was doing in 21 and 22, his part-time salary was $31,900. Now that he's a full-time director, we're pushing that up to $64,821 along with benefits. We had an activity fund in 23 and 22, which we used to fund activities through different organizations. We gave money to the outing club to help with fields, et cetera. That line item is being zeroed out. So essentially, it's a wash. The money from the activity fund is being used to fund the full-time director's salary and benefits. With the benefits in retirement, it actually comes a little bit over. I think, John, you said $7,000. But essentially, those are the activity fund is being used now moving forward to pay for the full-time director, which is what it used to be prior to COVID when we had a full-time director.
So when, like last year, if I recall, the Rotary Club came to the select board for some monies for one activity or another, hospital days, all those things will no longer get funded by the town?
There definitely could be activities that are funded by the town that might not be sponsored by the rec department. So some of those things, we are, Putnam, and again, speak to it if you'd like, we're talking to the Rotary Club about something with Strawberry Fest or other activities that we would partner with them. So there will be partnerships, but there definitely could be other activities that people come to the town to request money that wouldn't be sponsored by the rec department.
So what would the source of funds be for those requests? Because up to now, they were the rec department category.
Yeah, the select board would have to decide where they came from at that point, if there's an underspent line item or
Yeah, like the
somewhere
bike
else.
racks, for instance, that would be something that, at least for now, would not come out of rec.
Yeah.
It would be an additional.
So is there any, I don't know, Bill or Lynn, whether or not is there any accounting for those things that we know typically happen in town, that those organizations look for support from the town? Is there any line item in any budget to address those things?
They haven't really come up as a regular item, Colin. I think we're aware of a couple this past year. The Rotary asked for some help on something, but that has not been an annual ask.
And I think that's also just because we were in COVID and we didn't really have many activities. Those were special activities that folks were trying to put on to have something.
So does the town not incur any costs for hospital days?
Sure, the town incurs the costs of the safety personnel that work.
Does the hospital
And
pay for those?
that's embedded in the chief's budgets.
So this is sort of
So
related
that
to
was
what-
Lindsay's point.
Lindsay's point, right. So why would we identify a sum of money for Halloween and not identify the same sum of money for hospital days and ask the hospital to pay for it?
I think what Putnam was trying to say, which we can accept or not accept, is that Hospital Days is sponsored by an outside organization, the hospital.
Right?
And so we're serving that organization in that particular situation. He's claiming here that the Halloween, and Chris has said this, the Halloween event will be a Recreation Department event and therefore ought to include all the costs of that event. It's, Lindsay's raised a legitimate question about why one way for one thing and a different way for another thing. But that's the argument.
Understood, yeah. So I agree with Lindsay. I don't know why we'd want to treat them separately and differently.
Chris?
I mean, if the police department and the fire department are, I'll use the word absorbing, but it's based on years of experience, some costs associated with people for the purposes of hospital days, and we're not asking the hospital to pay for those people, then I would argue that the fire department and the police department could absorb those costs that we've seen over the years for Halloween and not ask for those to be funded outside of the existing budgets.
And maybe it's the semantics, but because it's sponsored by not a town department, it's sponsored by the hospital. So the hospital is asking us to incur, right, the hospital doesn't have their own budget. So they're asking us to help support that with fire and police support. So Chief Cobb, Chief Lyon put that in their budgets for the time, whereas Rec is a sponsor of Halloween. We're asking to absorb that, but they're asking us to absorb that budget because we're the sponsor of that event.
Can I?
So I hear what you're saying. My only point is that the real corollary would be hospital, you can pay the police and the fire department because we're asking the rec to pay for it. So, and I'm not asking us to do that. My point is that we have years of Halloween days, years of hospital days, years of Strawberry Festival days, and those things have been, I'll use the word absorbed, but incurred by the respective departments to support the safety and security of those events, and to pull out the Halloween side and say, let's fund those two things and not look at the other sides. We'll talk about it when it comes to funding, but I'm not.
Can I just clarify and I didn't mean to convolute it, because I'm in full support of funding all safety-related measures. I just, I just wanted to make sure that we were accurately tracking and not, actually, I was in your defense to not have you responsible for that funding when other entities weren't held to that standard, but it's all coming out of the same pool. It's all coming out of whatever Lynn gets. It was more of an accounting thought, not a debate over the, worthiness of it. So I wanted to clarify that. I definitely want them. I want them for all the things. I just wanted to make sure we weren't putting more on Putnam's plate than any other, event, be it, the hospital is a part of our community, and I think all of our small businesses and the Chamber of Commerce, and, they all benefit from the event, with all the influx of traffic. So I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure we were having the correct accounting procedure for it. That's all.
Chief.
Thank you. Emily Cobb, Police Chief. I think one of the major differences between Hospital Days and Halloween is that Hospital Days is essentially a 3-day-long event, and we choose to support that with the appropriate staffing as we see fit.
And one of the major differences here for Halloween is that we're shutting down a state road in order to put this event on safely. And in order to shut down a state road, we have to have appropriate detours. And in order to do that, we have to have appropriate staffing levels at various intersections and with support of the fire department. So I think that's one of the major differences, is that we're shutting down a state road in order to do that. There are some events during hospital days where they pay for officers, and then there's other events in towns where nonprofits also pay for officers. So that's just one of the major differences that I see between hospital days and Halloween.
Great, thanks. So any questions for Putnam on the rec budget? So again, we're asking for a $10,000 increase on the total budget, which, again, as we update line items, will be reflected. And Bill, that has not similarly come to the selectmen yet, right?
Yep. Good, thank you.
All right, so let's move on. We'll go back up onto the agenda and go to health and welfare. Do we have any representatives for health and welfare? There she is. Oh, yes, so
I'm not health. That's Nick Bayer.
what's that?
Nick Bayer is health. I'm not health.
Yeah. Any changes?
No,
No, okay.
no,
So any questions
For welfare.
for welfare?
for welfare. I think it's going to come next year that it's going to be harder because the community action money has closed, and most of what I do is rent. Okay, and I think that's going to be a big issue going forward. But we're requesting the same amount of money. The last fiscal year, I spent less. I spent 12,000 something. So that should go into the savings account. Do you have any questions?
I do, quickly.
Yep, sorry.
Just something you just said. You said the community action program?
The community action, the rental assistance money
Oh, okay. So
has
that-
closed down. That was the federal money that came to the states. That's closed down.
So that brings the burden greater to us, and you've done a good job
It's-
redirecting it there.
I have sent a lot of people
Right.
through that. One of the biggest issues is they accept the people in the program. They don't send the money to the landlord or whoever. It takes a long time to get the funding. So,
Coming back to the towns.
thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on any of the other line items for health and welfare? If- It, yeah. It looks like no questions. Unless you want people to.
Also, New London Hospital.
Yep. New London Hospital.
Where's Regional Association?
Hi there. So we don't have any changes from the requests that we've submitted, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I apologize in advance, was not trying to put you on the hook for safety services.
That's
so-
okay.
Okay.
I understand completely. Can I answer any questions for anyone?
I'm not hearing any.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I think we're good. All right, I did skip regional associations, my apologies. So we will go back to regional associations. So Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission, Chamber of Commerce, any representatives? Any changes, Lynn?
The Chamber of Commerce gave me a letter to read. And I will find it in half a second in this pile of stuff I have. Here it is. So I'll jump through it very quickly. We at Lake Sunapee Region Chamber of Commerce would like to take a moment to provide additional information regarding our request for a slight increase in our funding for fiscal year 2024. We've requested $15,000. In the past, the town has been generous, contributed $12,500 to our annual budget to assist with operation of the information booth and chamber office. As we look to the future, costs have certainly increased for businesses, nonprofits, and of course residents too. There are some building projects that are on our radar, like replacing our heating unit, handrails on our side stairs, staining our front porch, etc. All these small projects make the information booth more welcoming and accessible to travelers and residents of New London and the greater community. Additionally, and moreover, we are looking at new ways to reach and connect with our member businesses, over 40% of which are in New London. The communities that we serve, New London being our home base and main focus. To that extent, we would love to have a summer 2024 intern to help with large summer events, planning of fall and winter events, outreach, promotion of our businesses, and the overall tourism market here in the Lake Sunapee region. From website content, social media projects, and new initiatives, having an intern would be a great opportunity for us at the Chamber, but also for our member businesses and our community at large. Interns can bring new energy, new ideas, new skills, and bright modern ideas to operations, and we welcome such an experience here at Lake Sunapee Region Chamber. Finding a quality intern can prove challenging, but having some funds set aside specifically for this would assist in making sure we find someone vested in the position and the community. This is the main reason for our request for the additional $2,500. The town of New London is truly a special place, and at the Chamber, we do what we can to promote that and be a resource for our businesses and our town residents. The support of a summer intern will be invaluable to us. Our Lake Sunapee region summer is our busiest season, with so much happening at times we find it hard to keep up. Having a summer intern would be incredibly helpful for us, not to mention it would encourage a young pre-professional to work, live, and play here in the New London area. One of the pieces that we would like to promote is that no matter your age or interest, you can find a home and welcoming community here in New London. With an additional set of hands working from the information booth for our busiest season, there's no limit to the connections we can make, the referrals we can provide, and the support assistance we can be for the travelers and guests to our beautiful town. Thank you for your consideration and your continued support. Please let me know if we have additional information regarding the summer intern position. We would love to provide you any pieces and parts to supplement our funding request, and that's signed by Ashley Rowell, the Executive Director.
Great, thanks. So for Budget Committee members, it looks like the line item in the budget is still the $12,500, so they're requesting $15,000. Okay, so that would move the total for general government for both those line items to a total of $21,759.
Chris, that was the original $15,000 offer, and the selectmen reduced it. So these updated sheets.
Okay, so that's after the selectmen have
If you
considered.
look at the sheets of the changes the selectmen made, we reduced that with a understanding that this was a year when we weren't going to fund additional spending by outside organizations.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Okay. Go ahead, Lindsay.
It's hard to discuss or ask questions then if the representative is not here. Could they, I know that we need to finish this out, I mean.
Well, we're not voting, so if we wanted to get back to Ashley.
Reach out directly.
Reach out directly to say, to come back to a meeting when we vote on it, that's
Okay.
a possibility, yeah.
Okay.
Any questions on chamber? Okay. Let's move on to patriotic purposes, page 15. I don't think we have any questions, but you never know. No questions. Archives, page 16. Any questions? None? Conservation Commission, page 16.
Good evening.
Evening.
Our budget, over the years, our request has been pretty flat. It's been right around $19,000 a year to cover a lot of different things, including trail maintenance, which is one of our biggest expenses. This year, our request reflects about a 9% increase, which is a lot. We understand that, a little under $2,000, but that is primarily the result of the cost of purchased items, specifically lumber. There was a period last year where lumber prices nearly tripled. And we looked at a lot of alternatives. We always shop very, very hard for our materials, but we also considered deferred maintenance, which is a easy way out, but it doesn't fix the problem. And this last 2 years, we have noticed that trail visits are up 4 to 5 times, as best we can estimate. A lot of people out there, a lot of people go out that maybe are not accustomed to hiking, and we have had reports of falls because certain things maybe weren't set up as well as they should be. So we decided that deferred maintenance really wasn't an option. The good news is lumber has come down slightly, and the supply line's looking a little better. We have a lot to do. We use a lot of pressure-treated lumber. We know that it lasts at least 50% longer than native hemlock, which is what we used for years and years. We did go back last year to do a couple of jobs with hemlock because it is about 2/3 of the price of pressure-treated, but it doesn't last as long. Another consideration is that a lot of this lumber has to be hand-carried, in some cases a half a mile into the woods. So using lumber that lasts longer is a real plus. So that's pretty much where we are. We have a lot to do this year. We also have the bog walkway upgrade project going on, which is a completely different topic because we're trying to fund that privately. But I don't know whether there are any questions on any other item.
Any questions from the committee on conservation? It doesn't look like there are any.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Oops, John, next one. Do I want to go backwards? For which one?
Archives, just for edification, I'm trying to figure out what the 19,000 goes for.
I'll answer that. He's doing shelving projects down there, and the first phase of it was last year. That's completed. This is the second phase of getting all that shelving in and storage to preserve everything.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone from Energy?
Excuse me, can I just ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking at the agenda. I'm here from CASA, and I didn't see it on the agenda, so I didn't.
Oh, we did? I thought we had asked. Okay. I don't think there were any questions, but does anyone have any questions for CASA?
No, I missed it, but I think we're good.
Yeah. No, I think we're fine.
You also mentioned COA, was that
Well, that came under health and welfare, so it didn't appear as the budget committee had any questions.
Then fine, that's it.
Yep. Unless you want us to make up questions. Okay.
So you don't have any questions?
I don't think so. I'll give the committee another opportunity if, but it appears that we're good. Yeah. Good? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any questions about energy? There is no change from last year. I don't think there's anyone here from energy. We can, if we want to record a question, we can record it and get it back to them.
Yeah, just on the record, I'll ask the question, and if we can get an answer. I don't see any funds expended for the last few years, but, so I don't know what the plan is. We continue to put it in the budget, but nothing expended. It looked like there was a one-time expense a few years back. The request doubled, and with no spending, and so we're at that doubled amount again. So if we can find out what the plan is going forward, maybe we can make an adjustment. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody from Housing Commission?
My name is Peter Nichols. I'm the chairman of the Housing Commission. We have no changes as originally requested, but I'm here to answer questions.
Great. John?
Peter, it seems like you've done a lot, accomplished a lot here, and you have moved things forward to the planning board now. Is there reason to keep the $15,000 consulting fee going forward?
Yes, John, I believe there is, because this is funds that start in, if I'm not mistaken, July 1, 23, correct? We have, as you've alluded to, made a big stride last night with the planning board. They have accepted our recommendations and set a public hearing for review of those recommendations. We are hoping for a vote in March. That will inform us a great deal as to what the community feels about the work we're doing. And I say we, you've attributed to me, but really we have a terrific committee. And in March, we will learn a lot about how the community feels about our recommendations, about the importance and how workforce housing fits into our community needs. And as a result of that, I see a renewed effort to continue with a consultant, maybe not the same one, with, I think, probably a more robust community engagement stage, where we go back to the community and say, you voted yay or nay on what we recommended before, and now it's time to listen more specifically, and you've had a chance to think about it, to listen specifically about what you would like to do going forward. So the consulting will be, I think, a little bit different, as it'll be focused more on community engagement at a very deep level. But we'll know more as of March. And the $15,000 per year that we're spending now with our consultant has been, I believe, money well spent and carefully spent.
Any additional questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to other conservation, so care of trees, anyone from the Lake Protective Associations or the Garden Club. I'll just ask the Budget Committee if there are any questions of those line items. There is a slight increase for milfoil, but other than that, everything is the same. I'm just, unless you want to come and present, I was just going to have folks ask questions if they have questions. Anything from budget? Lindsay, just while you stepped out, any questions on other conservation, care of trees, milfoil, garden club? Okay. All right. It appears that there are no questions. And that is the budget for tonight, unless I've missed something. Bill? Do you want to borrow one of ours?
I've got one right here. So you have successfully eliminated one night of the schedule.
We have.
Tomorrow night, the selectmen are going to be looking at their schedule for January. And so I wondered, looking at the calendar now, what you think might happen to this committee after January 4th when we...
Right, so it looks as if January 4th is Public Works and anything that we've not addressed. I do think, Lynn, that there are a number of line items that have to be updated. I think there'll be questions on those. I don't know the best way to highlight the ones that have been changed. Just over the last few meetings, it's hard to keep up with every ones that have changed, so maybe we can chat about a way, or if any Budget Committee members have a suggestion on highlighting those changes and have a discussion if there are questions on those changes. So Bill, I would say after we do Public Works, what would be your schedule Usually, we would then, you guys would vote on a budget, we would do reconciliation, we would have to vote on budgets too.
So you see finalizing the budget now on the 11th,
Yep.
moving things up a week?
If that's on your calendar for the selectmen.
Well, that's what we're going to figure out tomorrow night, hopefully.
Yep.
But I want some sense, you're not going to skip the 11th, you're going to go right to, keep moving things up.
As long as it aligns with the selectmen and your budgets.
Okay,
right?
thank you. Yep.
I think we would use the 4th to cover Public Works and hopefully answer any additional questions.
Correct.
We would have.
Correct, and then move to finalizing it on the 11th?
Correct.
If it works for us.
If it works. John, you have a
Thanks.
thought?
Will you be also taking up the revenue section then, that you said?
Revenue is on our agenda for tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, Lindsay.
Sorry, I just wanted to reassure, there's a lot of people here for these organizations, and most of us all attended the presentations when they were with the Board of Selectmen. So when we don't have any questions, because we've heard and/or debated about it already, so I just didn't want anybody to feel like they didn't come for a good reason. We just kind of...
Nope, that's a great point. We definitely appreciate you coming to the meeting to answer any questions that we might have. Any thoughts or questions from Budget Committee? Any other business? Okay. Any motions to adjourn? All those in favor? Aye.